Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh and Jill here live on a Thursday.
Live on a Thursday.
Yes, sir. A couple more Thursdays and we'll have some football, about a month and a half, a little under.
When's the Hall of Fame game?
Does anybody care?
Good point.
Let's be honest. None of the starters play, so it's football, but again,
I don't think I even watch it. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe get NFL Game Pass again though this year. Although I was super excited for NFL Game Pass and for the preseason games last year, actually, because of all the quarterbacks that we had, the rookie quarterbacks. But this year it's like, this rookie QB class is poor.
Yes.
And
next year will be more exciting again. But
for sure with Stroud and Young and possibly did you see Will Levis?
Oh, his little mayo
in his
coffee. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. And it wasn't just like a little dab. It was like, it looked like it was like 50-50 mayo and coffee.
Yeah.
That made me want to vomit.
That can't be a real thing. He's doing that for his TikTok. There's no fucking way that he has that much mayonnaise in his coffee.
I don't know. We saw him shove that rotten banana down his, hole into his mouth.
Yeah.
So he might, that guy's he's
a weird dude. Yeah.
Weird cat.
Yes,
but he might end up getting drafted. Ukulele possibly.
Good joke.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up. He better.
All right. So usually I have the question of the day, but Jel's got one rolling. So going to kick it over to you, Jel, for our question of the day.
Okay, so, obviously both fans here of NFC North teams. You have the Bears, myself of the Packers. So I guess it's applicable to both of us. If you're out, like either in another city, like outside of, obviously this is less cool if you're in Green Bay and you see somebody else with a Packers shirt on. But if I see somebody with a Green Bay Packers shirt down here, it's, obviously not as common. So for you, if let's say you're in Wisconsin, you see people with Bears shirts, or you're in another city, you're down in for example, you went down to South Carolina this year, and you're maybe rocking a Cubs hat or something, and you see somebody else with a Cubs hat or Cubs shirt or something. Do you give them like a kind of like a bro nod or some sign of acknowledgement, or do you just walk, do you ignore the situation? What do you tend to do when you see that?
I guess it kind of depends on where I'm at. If for example, if I saw somebody down in South Carolina when I was down there, it'd be more like maybe just like the head nod or hey, go Cubs or something like that. But I don't know. It kind of depends. If I'm in Wisconsin and see another Bears fan, usually it's a bear down, go Bears, something like that, because you don't see a lot of them here and you get so much crap from Packer fans. So in Wisconsin, if I see a Bears fan, a little more of a pump up, but otherwise it's usually just a head nod. I mean, Cubs fans are all over the place. So they're similar to the Packers. I mean, Packer fans travel well. There's Packers, Wisconsin, Wisconsinites all over the country. So usually you can't look too hard to find another Packer fan. Same with the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs had WGN as their broadcasting partner for a long time. That was a national network, so that you could watch them pretty much wherever. So, but Bears, a little bit different story for me there. So it's usually, go Bears, or make sure it's well known when I see another Bears fan in Wisconsin.
That's what it is. It's like making sure. Well, so we saw that we golfed with that Packers fan down here in Dallas.
Yeah.
So random, how he's rocking a Packers visor.
And he was an Iowa State fan the day that Iowa State played Wisconsin in the March Madness tournament too.
Right. So that was such a weird just connection. It's funny how that shit kind of just happens. All random things like that kind of happen where you end up getting paired up with somebody that has some connection. I don't know, it makes the world seem a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, over in Paris, there's a Packers bar. Why? a team from a city of less than 100,000 people, and there's a Packers bar in Paris. It doesn't make sense, but it's cool stuff like that. That's, I don't know, and it makes you kind of makes you feel good when you see somebody, you know, when I see a Packers fan or something, you know, I'm just like, you know, especially if I'm like rocking a, you know, I'm wearing a Brewers hat and I see somebody else with a Packers shirt on or something. It's just kind of like little potential little, like you said, nod of acknowledgement or, you know, fist bump, depending on, you know, if I'm at a sports bar, it's like, you know, beers get flowing, you know, maybe it turns into a conversation or a fist bump or whatever. But yeah, it's just cool. It makes the world seem a little bit smaller every time that kind of thing happens.
Oh yeah. All right. So you can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Be the first thing that pops up. Not live on YouTube today. Usually do that at the beginning of the week. Hopefully, once football season rocks, we'll be back to our 2 times a week recording instead of recording a couple episodes on one evening. So should have a couple live shows for you per week once the season starts up. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you know when those episodes go live. Thank you, Joe. And we've got that chat up, monitor that so that way you can ask us any questions. You can ask us any questions as well on our socials. Hit us up at DasGel. That's at DASJEL if you want Gel's advice. Otherwise, you can hit me up at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. Give us a follow on those 2 socials, also our Dead Arm Sports social, and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Make sure you write a review, send a screenshot of that. We'll get you some Dead Arm Sports swag sent out in the mail for free.
For free.
Joe, still rocking that Irving, Texas Agua, or have you moved on to bigger and better things?
It's still the Agua, still in a little bit of you know, still trying to make sure I get healthy. So it's the old H2O. Prep the body for what may be a banger of a weekend upcoming. Make sure I'm healthy for that, you know?
Like it. I am switching seltzers. The last one from our Tuesday podcast or Wednesday podcast.
Wednesday release.
Wednesday release. Forget or not on a Monday, but a little sweet for my liking. So I moved on to a grapefruit high noon. So this one is.
I gotta get my. I don't know how I haven't tried these nooners.
They're good.
I've heard solid. I've never heard
more
anybody
pricey though. That's the only thing. They're
maybe that's why I've
pricey,
stayed away.
But yeah, they've got supposedly real vodka in them as opposed to whatever is in seltzer. So vodka. So this one's going down smooth. Usually not a grapefruit fan, but for whatever reason, theirs is very good. So I like it a lot.
Grapefruit IPA though.
Yeah,
I love a good grapefruit IPA.
Yeah, I haven't had too many of them, but yeah, there really isn't too many beers I don't like, to be honest. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I guess if you know, you like sours a lot more than I do for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Love a good sour. That is for sure. All right, have a big episode for you. Going to try and run through this, keep it within our allotted time frame, but more than likely go over that as we usually do. But who gives a shit? It's a Thursday. We're almost at the weekend. Going to talk NFC North fantasy preview today, a little Rocket Mortgage Classic. But before then, we teased it at the end of our last episode. We're going to talk about some not as popular good quarterbacks in the league. Gel's got some names for us, a little over-under action on starts for the rest of their career. So without further ado, Gel, this is your segment you wanted to do, so I will turn the reins over and let you run the show.
Yeah, these numbers that I came up with are numbers that I came up with. These aren't any, this doesn't come from Vegas. These come from my numbers that I think, you know, are reasonable, and there's no more exciting topic in football than mediocrity at quarterback. So figure we can.
Hey, I'm a Bears fan. I know all about that. Hey, I would take mediocrity.
I'll leave Justin Fields off this. We don't need to talk about the end of his career already.
Sounds good.
I'm going to kick it off then with number of career starts for Baker Mayfield. I'm going to set that line at 45 for the rest of his career. So really, we're talking about now a 17-week season. So that's 2.5.
So you're looking at probably about 3.5 seasons or 2.5. Yeah, 2.5.
Pretty close to 3.
Or,
Yeah.
well, 3, yeah, because it'd be what, 17, 30, yeah, 51 would be 3 full seasons.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
about
just
two
about
and a
3
half.
seasons. And
I
this
think
can
that's a
include
really
this.
good over under. I think that's actually a
That's
really
why I
good
put it
number.
there.
I'm gonna go over though. I think he's still young right now. I think he's gonna have a good enough season in Carolina to warrant maybe a couple year deal from another team that maybe is transitioning off of an older quarterback and maybe hasn't drafted their future guy. So I think you'll get at least a full season from him this year as their starter. Maybe he's not in Carolina next year, but I think between the next couple of years, he should scrap together at least 2 full seasons worth of where the start. So I'd go with the over, I think there.
Yeah, I'm really, really torn here
It's a good over
because
under, I think.
because I think it's really gonna depend on not only just his on-field performance this year, but has he been humbled a little bit? Because if he goes into this season with the same attitude that he had in Cleveland, where he's, I'm top shit, I'm the franchise quarterback, I run the show, me, not, not that humble, not that humble attitude that you kind of need to have, that at least that he needs to have. And the cockiness, the immaturity, if that changes, I'm going to take the over. But if it doesn't, this could be, his final year starting, unless in the future you want to, then he basically goes and rides kind of a Jameis Winston type of trajectory. So, where you get onto another team and maybe things can change there. But I think it's going to depend solely on if he's humbled this season. And I'm going to take the over as well, above 45 career starts, because he is going into, I have seen a little bit more just from his post game, or I guess not post game, obviously, but, preseason pressers, that he does seem to have a little bit different of an attitude. When he talked about Cleveland, he said, just didn't say anything about didn't trash the organization at all, which that's a positive change. He just said, he basically left it as, I love the fans of Cleveland. They, that was my home, me and my wife's home for the last 4 years. And I couldn't have asked for anything more from the fans, from the city. Didn't talk about the Browns or the organization at all. And I thought that was a step in the right direction when it came to him showing a little bit of additional maturity that he was lacking in the past. So I think that he's going to be able to start, he'll finish this season. Maybe he doesn't get in all 17 weeks, maybe, who knows, maybe Darnold slips in a start here or there, but I think that he'll show enough this year, especially off the field, on both on and off field, maturity wise, that he's going to be able to get himself, hopefully at least to, get himself another 2-year contract after this.
Agreed.
Okay, let's stay in Carolina then. Go to presumably his backup, and I'm going to go with Sam Darnold. 10 career starts. That's obviously assuming that he becomes a backup after this season, or including this season and beyond.
I think that's got to be an over. I mean, that's just over half a season, which I could easily, if Baker falters at all, if Baker has injuries. I mean, Baker missed a few games last year from injury. That's going to be Sam Darnold starting. I don't think you're going to see Matt Carroll,
damn it.
Carolina thrown in at all. But so I think he'll already knock off some of those. I think he'll make at least a couple starts this year, and then he'll bounce around on a couple teams being the backups here in the next few years, where I think you'll get some spot starts from him. So I think it'd be over 10.
Yeah, it's all gonna depend for me if this getting some playing time this year, honestly, is something that may end up being the deciding factor, because if he doesn't play at all this year, then that's what he's going to be. He's going to be a career backup. And so he's going to have to be reliant on other teams' injuries. I think I guess I take the over because he is still so young, and 10 starts is like nothing. But if you ask me how many starts over the next 5 over the next 3 years, I would take the under. Thankfully, he's so young that he'll, even if he is a backup, he'll be able to probably get into more than 10 games. But so I guess I'll take the over, but I don't know. His future's bleak right now.
Yeah.
Staying in, I guess we'll stay in the NFC on that East Coast.
You're going to say staying in Carolina.
Corral. PJ Walker. 0 or a half game. Staying on the East Coast, work our way north up to Daniel Jones. And I'm going to put this number at 20.
He's still really young too, but he's already going to probably get hooked this year if he falters down the stretch. Man, I'm going to have to go with over just because they don't really have anybody else behind him this year at this point in time. So I think he's going to get a bulk of those this year. But if you were to put that number at like 10 to 15 after this year, I'd probably go with the under there. But just because he's their starter going into it, and there's not really much behind him that's going to uproot him from being that starter right now, I think it's going to be over 20.
I would slow down on that assumption that he doesn't get benched. Tyrod, not Tyrod Taylor, is right behind him now. I know, obviously, you gaff at that, but I mean, if Jones is garbage through the first 8 weeks, what's not to say they don't say, screw it, let me throw Tyrod in there. I think, no, this was maybe too long ago. I wonder if Tyrod was the QB for the Bills if
Dable was still there,
if Brian Dable was there. So maybe there may be some familiarity there. Maybe that's why he did decide to go to the Giants. I don't know. I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss that.
What freak injury is Tyrod gonna end up with?
Getting stabbed in the lungs again?
Yeah, I mean it's only a matter of time before the poor guy has something happen to him again.
That's possible, yeah. But I could see. I wouldn't be so surprised or so sure that he's not gonna end up getting pulled. That Jones won't end up getting pulled sometime during the season.
Yeah, I just, with Brian Dable being the quarterback whisperer and getting Josh Allen, a raw prospect, into the one of the top quarterbacks in the league, I think they're going to try. This is the last chance to see if they can get something out of Daniel Jones. So I think they're going to give him a pretty long run this season just to see what they have. And worst case, you have a bad season and you're drafting Bryce Young, CJ Stroud for next year. So I don't really see a huge negative for letting Daniel Jones start this season and see what happens.
Yeah, I think the book's already written on Daniel Jones. You know, he's been in the league now 3 full seasons. I don't see it's not, and that's the thing too, is like, yes, Dable was able to show that upside or get that upside out of Josh Allen, but Allen has physical tools that literally no other quarterback in the league has. Where Daniel Jones physically, Alex Smith, but he doesn't have the brains and the experience yet. So I'm tempted to take the under. 20 games is so few.
Yeah, and he's still young too, where again, he'll probably be a backup somewhere and get a couple spot starts. And again, like I said, I'm banking on him getting probably half of those starts this year, where then it's 10 starts after this season.
Yeah, I guess I'll reluctantly take the over as well on him then. So. All right, let's go. All these players are NFC players. I didn't even do that on purpose, but they are. AFC. Hey, the AFC honestly is loaded quarterback wise. So it's weird how that's completely flipped, where the NFC used to be the loaded conference QB wise, and now it's the AFC that's loaded, and the NFC is a little bit.
I'll throw an AFC one at you at the end once you get done. I've got an AFC one.
All right, I'm going to go over to Jared Goff, and I'm going to put this number at 35. So that's basically just under 2 full seasons.
Yeah, I'd go with the over. He looked halfway decent in Detroit last year, so I think he's going to end up getting a second contract next year and probably be maybe a starter again. So barring injury, he's going to be playing 17 games this year. So I don't see him having any issue getting to that number. Should get a contract next year. Probably not from Detroit. I don't see him going back there, but maybe a team, maybe Matt Ryan hangs it up and the Colts are playing that game again where they're trying to find another veteran, or who knows,
Another
maybe
one, a six
maybe
quarterback in 6
Atlanta
years.
doesn't like what they see out of Mariota or Desmond Ritter, and he ends up down in Atlanta for another season or two. So he's still fairly young, where I think you could get maybe a 2-year deal or something like that after this year in Detroit. And again, I see him playing 17 games this year. So I'm going to go with the over on that one too.
I'm going to take the under on 35. I think the Lions are going to be a lot better this year record-wise than last year. They did show some promise, especially towards the end of the season. That team plays hard for Dan Campbell, but I still think that defense is going to be enough of a mess for them to lose enough games to still have a top 5 pick. And I think they're going to end up taking a quarterback in the first round. And if they do that, there's no sense in keeping Goff around.
No, he'll be gone if they do that.
So then at that point, he's been traded already. And then, from the Rams to Detroit, and then either cut or traded again at that point to be a backup. I think that backup is in his future. Yes, he'll get the full season this year, but I think starting the following season, that's when you're going to start his career is going to be a backup, and maybe he'll get a Trubisky type of, have a Trubisky type of career where he can be a bridge type of quarterback, but that's kind of the hope for Trubisky this year. And he's not even guaranteed any starts right now with the Steelers. So same thing in Atlanta. I mean, Mariota's not guaranteed any starts. It's if Ritter beats him out in camp, I'd imagine it's going to be Ritter's team. So I see that kind of a future for Goff where he falls into that Trubisky, Mariota type of role. And I just don't see he'll get this full season. So he'll get 16, 17 starts this season, but I just don't see much of a future for him after that, at least as a starter.
Fair enough.
One last guy here, and guy that's been on the block now all off season, hasn't made any moves. Jimmy Garoppolo, 28 starts for the rest of his career. So he's got the talent to be a starter in this league. It's just a matter of a team he's got to find a fit, obviously. And right now it doesn't seem like there's any teams that are willing to try to fit him in. And I don't know why, but
yeah. Oh man. I think he's going to end up getting cut this year, and then he's going to have to sit and be a backup somewhere for a year and then maybe get a chance. Oh man, he's tough because he should get to 28, but
the health also,
right
let's be honest, has to play a huge factor in this.
Yeah.
I mean, even if he was your starter for 2 seasons, 34 games, you can't guarantee that. You obviously can't guarantee that he's going to be playing in all 34.
Yeah. Oh man. I think I'm going to still go with the over on it. I think he'll end up finding a home next year and be their starter, and he still looked decent for the 49ers. And if they hadn't drafted Trey Lance, he would be their starter this year and for the future. But they drafted Trey Lance because Jimmy couldn't stay healthy for a while, and they just thought that he was very limited, and obviously like Trey Lance for the system that they want to run out in San Francisco. So yeah, man, it's just, man, I keep going back and forth. You know what? Screw it. I'm going with the under on it just because I don't know that he's even going to start at all this year, and that's going to limit him for the future. And who knows, maybe he is in a situation where he's got to beat out somebody else and ends up being a bridge quarterback. So I'll lean the under, I think.
Yeah, as much as I think he deserves the over, because I think he's talented enough to get the over, it's pretty clear the opportunity's not going to be here this year unless a team like Seattle is willing to give up the draft capital that the Niners are going to want for him, especially trading him in division. That's the only chance I see him making to this 28 starts,
Yeah.
because if let's say he gets sent to, I don't know, whoever, maybe let's go back to Daniel Jones. Let's say he goes to the Giants. Jimmy G's your starter, then probably day one. That would obviously put the under on Daniel Jones at 20 starts, I think. But no, I mean, he's gonna have to go somewhere to be a starter this season to even have a chance to break that, because he goes to a team as a backup, and then what? I mean, then again, like I said, if he were to get a 2-year deal, there's no guarantee that he's going to be starting all 34 of those games. So I'm gonna lean the under to injury history and the fact that there are so many question marks this season.
Yep.
That's all
right,
I got. So you said you've got a surprise guy.
Yeah, I got a surprise guy that I wanted to throw an AFC guy in there for you. And I'm going to go over under 30 starts remaining in his career. Davis Mills. God, you don't know what Houston's going to do with him.
No.
He should get 17 games this year, but what does the future hold?
I like Mills on the field. I think he's legit. I'm going to take the over on Mills. Even if Houston sucks again this year, which they probably will, Mills can still show that he can be somebody to, for an option for another team, and maybe Houston then sends him away and gets a third or fourth for him. I mean, they drafted him in the third, so if they're able to get a third or fourth for him, they probably are happy with that, and then they can just move on if they were in a position to grab a Stroud, a Bryce Young. So. But I think he'll get an opportunity somewhere else if he doesn't stick around in Houston. So I'll take the over on 30. I think he gets an opportunity somewhere to be at least a bridge guy, if it's not going to get done in Houston.
Yeah, no, he deserves that. I think I'd go with the over too, just with obviously he should be playing 17 games this year and then should be able to scrap together at least 13 more games throughout the next couple of years.
I hope so. Somewhere.
Yeah. All right, let's move into our 6th out of 8 total divisions. We'll have the AFC and NFC West for you next week, but we are heading to the NFC North of this week. And let's kick it off with the reigning division champions, the Green Bay Packers. And interesting, no more Davante Adams. So the wide receiver room looks a little bit different there. I'm all in on Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. I think they're going to lean heavy on the run game this year, and I think Green Bay is going to have 2 solid running backs that you can put in. Aaron Jones, I think, is RB1, borderline end of one, RB2 relevant, and then A.J. Dillon for sure in a flex spot.
You think, okay, so do you think A.J. Dillon is worthy of a weekly play and plan on him?
I think so in the
weekly?
Flex spot. Yeah, for a flex, I think he could do worse than A.J. Dillon. Yep. I think they're going to lean heavy on the run again, Davante Adams is such a huge part of that offense, and we don't know what that wide receiver room is going to be able to produce. I like Allen Lazard this year because I think he's going to be that wide receiver one, has the rapport with Aaron Rodgers, has shown flashes at times, has had a little bit of trouble staying healthy, but right now, Christian Watson is on the PUP list for an undisclosed injury that they haven't said, so he's going to be missing time, and if he misses a couple weeks in camp, I don't know that I'm even in on Christian Watson at all for redraft. I mean, Dynasty, yeah, he's tied to Green Bay, but for redraft, if he misses a few weeks, that's huge for a rookie trying to learn the playbook, trying to build rapport with Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned numerous times on the podcast, Aaron has trouble with getting rookie wide receivers to be productive. So
his long lost cousin Amari Rodgers couldn't even get on the field last year. He had 4 receptions on the season.
Yeah.
He was a high-end pick. He was a high-round pick.
Yeah. So those are the 3 guys, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Allen Lazard. I like Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be fine as an NFL quarterback this year. Fantasy-wise, I'm kind of staying away from him if I can. I don't think he's going to be putting up the numbers he has in the past, especially without Davante Adams there. Again, I mentioned Christian Watson. Depending on how long he misses, I'm out on him this year. And then Robert Tonyan, I think, was going to have that one season that he's going to be able to talk about for the rest of his life, but I think that's about it. I don't see much from him. He's still recovering from his injury too, so it's I don't like those options at all. So I think it's just 3 Packers for me. Where do you sit being the resident Packer fan here, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, dynasty, what do you do with Rodgers?
Hope that you have a backup plan for the next couple of years, I think. But no, I mean, like I said, he'll be fine. He'll finish as a quarterback 1 for fantasy, but I think he's going to be back towards the double digits in that 9-10 range. I don't see him putting up the numbers he has in the past. That's going to be huge seasons from some of these guys that we haven't seen before, unless Aaron Jones just goes wild and has all of the receiving touchdowns that he had, 2 years ago when he was just absolutely balling out as a receiving back, or was it?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay. So that's the only way I think Rodgers gets into, I don't know, the top 5, top 6 is if Aaron Jones just absolutely runs wild or the running backs catch a lot of touchdowns. But I don't know. You're losing a ton of production from Devonta Adams.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no, I agree. Same 3 guys, not really super high on Watson. I do like Lazard though. I mean, Rodgers did say in his presser, one of his post-practice or pre-practice comments that he's looking forward to Allen Lazard being a number 1. So it sounds like that's it. It's Lazard's position to lose. And so you got to love that. He's never going to be a Devontae Adams level of guy, but he should be starter worthy at least in a flex spot, I think, on a weekly basis. I think that's something that I would feel comfortable counting on.
Yeah, nope, I would too. Speaking of Rodgers, what did you think of his entrance today, rocking the Nick Cage Con Air look?
I loved it. He looks good, hilarious. Dude. He's got that guy works out. He looked good. That's pretty impressive. Probably got some HGH going on or something, but or maybe it's just his Western medicine practices or whatever, non-actual medical practices that he does.
Right.
All of his herbal teas that he's drinking, but yeah, he looked good, and it was a pretty killer look. Not gonna lie, I liked that.
So, anything else from Green Bay before we move on to Minnesota here, Joe? Any other names? I mean,
that's really those 3 guys that are relevant for me.
Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb.
I'm not drafting either of those guys.
Okay, yeah, I'm the
same. Maybe Sammy Watkins, but God, even
week 1, Sammy Watkins, and then cutting him or trading him immediately. Yeah, that seems to be the only week that he's.
That's about that's dead on. Yeah, no, it's those 3 guys though. The running backs and Lazard, and I guess Rodgers is throw him in there for redraft, but I'm not expecting top 5 type of guy.
No, temper your expectations for sure there. All right, moving over to Minnesota. Minnesota is one. I didn't really find anybody I'm super out on this team. I think it's going to be another year of a fantasy powerhouse. Kirk Cousins, I think, is somebody that you could draft later on that should be productive for you to throw in. Maybe like on a week-to-week basis where you have somebody else that you can kind of just see matchup dependent and throw the other guy in, or if Kirk has a nice matchup, throw him in. I think he's definitely somebody you could mix and match there. Dalvin Cook, outside of injury, is going to be a top running back, so no questions there. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, one of the top wide receivers, if not the top wide receiver in the league, puts up just mad numbers for PPR, touchdowns, everything. So absolute stud for you there. And then we get into a couple more question marks. Adam Thielen, one of these years, is going to have a huge drop off. I thought it was going to be last year, and then he goes out and puts up double-digit touchdowns again. So I guess I'm not really sure
just a machine.
What to think of him. KJ Osborne, somebody that showed flashes at times last year. Not sure where you sit with him, Joe. And then Irv Smith Jr. obviously had the meniscus injury last year, was out for the season, but high expectations there. He's their he's their tight end right now. So where do you sit with those three guys? I think the other ones outside of Kirk Cousins are pretty much staples that there's no questions there. But I guess Thielen, Osborne, Irv Smith. What are you thinking?
I'm still cool with Thielen. Yeah, he's at some point it's got to happen. That drop off has to happen, but something with him and Kirk Cousins where they just I don't know what it is, but they got something going on, and it just the 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 production just keeps coming. So I'm totally good with Thielen. Taking him this year, I think wide receiver 2 is potentially there. I'd love him if I could get him, plug him into
flex,
more of a flex option.
Yeah. Yep.
But if I have to, if I go running back, tight end type of a draft, and then I finally get, then I get a receiver, and then I get, let's go back to that Mark Andrews discussion that we were talking about on the previous episode, where you go running back. If his ADP right now is at 301. So let's say you go Jonathan Taylor round 1, another back round 2, Mark Andrews round 3, you get your wide receiver 1 in round 4. I'm cool with having Thielen as my wide receiver 2 if I, for later on in the draft. So just knowing that you're going to have those other positions locked up. So just depending on your roster construction, he's a wide receiver 1 or 2, 2 or flex, but I'm comfortable with it. He's just gonna keep scoring touchdowns. I don't know how he's doing it, but he is. So I'm cool with Thielen. As far as, I guess Osborne, probably not going to draft him. But definitely a guy that you could maybe, throw onto your watch list and keep track of on a weekly basis, because he did have a few weeks last year where he looked really sharp and looked like he could be a future pretty big piece within that receiver room. So if we do see that Thielen drop off, I think Osborne is the one that ends up taking his spot.
He might be worth a flyer at the end of your draft if you're sitting
could
there.
Be. Yeah, could
not
be.
Not really sure. He might be worth taking a chance because Kirk can support 2 wide receivers. And like you said, if Thielen has a drop off, he's been a little bit injury prone the last couple of years too. Maybe KJ slides in there and you can get some production from him too.
Yep. So Irv Smith, as far as the tight end spot goes, he was like last year was supposed to be his major breakout year. Of course, dealt with a season-ending injury before the season even got going. So I do still like the potential here, but I'd rather probably stream a tight end and hope that I can get him on a bye week than draft. I'm not, for me, I'm not one that generally likes to have 2 tight ends on my roster unless I've got, a low end tight end. But if I've got a locked and loaded, high end tight end, I don't see a reason to keep, a second tight end on the roster just to use him for that one bye week or in case of injury. But Irv Smith, if you are in a position where maybe you got a mid-tier tight end and you want to take a later round flyer on Irv Smith to be that backup tight end, if let's say, obviously you're pretty low on Dallas Goedert, maybe if you end up with Goddard for example, it'd be worth taking a flyer on an Irv Smith in case Goddard does end up disappointing. And at least then you've got Smith to plug in when, if matchups, depending on matchups.
No, I like that. I don't think you put all your apples in one basket with Irv, but he's definitely somebody to potentially throw on your bench. If you're struggling at the tight end, you punt that position for a while in the draft and have to take a couple shots later on. He's definitely one that I would like to have on my bench to kind of see what happens if he can stay healthy. Yep. All right, moving on to the very fantasy relevant Chicago Bears.
Yikes. Poor guy.
There are 3 guys I do like this year, though. David Montgomery is a staple. I think he'll be fine this year. He's on, I believe he's on a contract year right now, so I'll see what happens there. Khalil Herbert's there too. Not as big on him right now unless Montgomery goes down. Montgomery is out there for quite a few of the snaps, first, second down, third down. Khalil Herbert spelled him at times last year, but I like.
What do you
see
in terms of handcuff viability if you are a Montgomery owner is Tate, or who's Khalil Tate?
The name sounds familiar.
Arizona Wildcats quarterback, that quick dude. Is that Khalil Tate?
That sounds right.
No, Khalil Herbert. Is he, if you're a Montgomery owner, is Herbert somebody that you are making sure that you draft as a handcuff? Because he was really solid last year in that when Montgomery was out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Herbert's somebody that you could have on your bench to help with Montgomery if Montgomery were to go down. Like you said, Herbert looked really good last year and very quick and different style of runner from David Montgomery too. So you could see him in there, but not enough for fantasy relevance if Montgomery's healthy. But no, if he goes down, Khalil Herbert's the next guy up and should have a big role in that offense. Speaking of other guys, Darnell Mooney, I think he'll be fine. It'll be interesting without Allen Robinson there. Darnell Mooney is pretty much their only wide receiver that I think will be have any relevance as of this point in time. And then I've been saying it the last couple of years, and damn it, I am still on the Cole Kmet train.
Yeah.
I think if it isn't this year, then I'm done with him. He should have a decent target share. He should be the second option for the passing game with Justin Fields. I don't like Byron Pringle. Velus Jones Jr. We'll see what happens. I think he's going to be more of a gadget guy, but Cole Kmet, this is his time to shine. And I don't necessarily know what to think. Justin Fields isn't going to have as great of a passing season as you would like to see in that second year. Their offensive line is putrid. Again, he doesn't have many options, and that is why I like Cole Kmet, because I think he is going to be the second passing option for Justin Fields. Has shown flashes at times, just has a lot of trouble getting
catching
into the
passes.
End zone. Well, just getting into the end zone. And Jimmy Graham's gone now, so he should be in there in the red zone. That was a huge thing. I don't think he's on a team, but
I don't either.
So at least Cole Kmet should be in there in the red zone where he was getting subbed out a lot for Jimmy Graham. So hopefully you see a little bit more of a positive touchdown for him, and we'll go from there with it. So those are the three guys. Again, no other receivers on the Bears.
So then given that Mooney is the clear number one guy, would you have him as a lock to finish as a wide receiver too?
I like Mooney in probably the flex spot. I don't know if the Bears offense is going to do enough to get Darnell Mooney into that wide receiver 2 spot. So if you're banking on him as a wide receiver 2, I think you're going to be disappointed with it. So he's going to have some games where he'll get you a solid finish for the week, but he's going to have other ones where it's 5 catches, 60 yards, and just kind of putting up duds here and there too. So I'd be a lot more comfortable with Darnell Mooney in the flex spot.
Yeah, that's probably about right. I mean, he's borderline wide receiver 2, I think, right now.
Yep.
Could finish top 25 wide receivers. So that would put him into that wide receiver 2 spot, but still a bit of a gamble. Let's talk dynasty really quick and go over to that QB room. Obviously, Justin Fields going into year 2, as well as Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. Why don't you rank those 5 second-year players if you're talking dynasty? Fields, Lawrence, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance.
Oh, man.
I just want to know where you put Fields here because he was a dud last year. And that Bears offense, I don't know if it's getting any better.
Yeah, those are 5 guys I'm not super excited to have on a dynasty roster, to be completely honest with you. I think I would put Mac Jones last. I just don't think I think he'll be a solid NFL quarterback. He was pretty solid last year at times, didn't make the rookie mistakes that you saw from some of these other guys, but I just don't think he's ever going to put up the numbers that would be fantasy relevant. So I think I would put him at the 5 spot.
Yeah, the thing about Mac Jones too is Belichick is coming out talking about how he's made great strides this offseason, and you never heard Belichick complimenting Brady.
That's a good point.
It's like, is he out here just trying to do like a sales pitch as to make Mac Jones seem a little bit more relevant? I don't know. That's abnormal for Belichick. So I think that's not a good sign.
Yeah. For the 4 spot, I think I'm gonna have to go Zach Wilson. I just don't know what to do necessarily with Zach Wilson. He showed flashes last year, but the Jets just fuck up the quarterback position so much. I mean, up there with the Bears, up there with the Browns, that I don't know. We'll see and learn a lot this year. He's got a solid running back.
He'll have the weapons.
He'll have all the weapons. Breece Hall, Elijah Moore, am I blinking? Garrett Wilson. So, I mean, he's got a ton of options there, and we'll see what strides he takes this year. But I don't know on Zach Wilson. I'd probably put Justin Fields next in the 3 spot here. So I think that's where he falls for me. I'm not necessarily completely out on his career yet, and I don't know that we're going to see a huge improvement this year. Again, if their line is questionable, he doesn't have the options, but last year, Justin Fields was pretty solid when he was on the run passing. And for whatever reason, probably because he's a fucking idiot, Matt Nagy would keep him in the pocket. And Matt Nagy didn't play to his strengths at all. So I'm curious. There's been reports that they're getting Justin Fields out of the pocket, getting him to throw on the run. So we'll see this year and see what happens. But I like Justin Fields for fantasy, for dynasty, because of his mobility too. He can put up a lot of yards on the ground. He can get those rushing touchdowns for you that probably won't see, obviously, from Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson's a little bit limited there too. So I do like Justin Fields for that aspect of it, for fantasy, for the rushing ability. I'd probably go Trey Lance next for the same thing. A jury's still out on him right now. He's got an absolute heater of a ball, but again, he sat for a year right now, and we'll learn a lot from him this year on what strides he takes. And then Trevor Lawrence, his pedigree has just been phenomenal from his days in high school at Clemson. And I don't necessarily know if he's going to make that jump this year with his wide receivers that he has, but like you touched on the last episode, I got thinking about it a little bit more afterwards. And Doug Peterson is quarterback guru. He's done very well getting the most out of his quarterbacks. So I think we will see improvement from Trevor Lawrence this year. And Trevor Lawrence, with his pedigree, has the potential to be the longest tenured quarterback of the 5 that we're talking about here. So I think that's the order I would fall with. I think
we are 5 for 5, 100% agreement. I really don't have anything else to add here. So
awesome.
Well done. Well said. Well done. And, check X marks the spot on all 5. So
nice.
Well said. Let's get into the Lions then.
Yes. Lions, surprisingly, I like some of the fantasy options there this year. DeAndre Swift, I think, is going to be awesome. Great receiving back and should get a lot of first, second down work there. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is going to have another great year for PPR. He's going to have a lot of catches and should be a staple in their offense. And TJ Hawkinson, obviously, too. I like TJ Hawkinson a lot. He was having a great season last year up until his injury that kind of derailed him down the road. The only option that I really want to talk about, at least that I'm kind of out on at this point in time, is Jameson Williams, starting off on the PUP list right now, which the PUP list isn't like the PUP list during the regular season. So let's preface that they can come off of it at any time, but he still hasn't fully recovered from the torn ACL, which is understandable. He tore it in the playoffs last year, college football playoffs, but I just think with him missing this much time, I don't know that he's going to be relevant for this season, at least for redraft. So that's where I think I would stay away from Jameson.
Are you saying you wouldn't draft him at all? Because I'm still willing to draft him. We've seen guys come back from these ACLs a lot quicker than in the past. I mean, who was the guy from the last episode? Chris Godwin. I mean, he's back. He's already back. So we've seen guys make some a lot quicker of recoveries than we have in the past. And yes, Jameson is on the PUP list now, but once he's on the field, and maybe he misses the first 6 weeks, but then you get potentially 10 weeks. I almost said seasons, 10 weeks of that'd be a lot, nice production in redraft. 10 weeks of production to finish off the season. I'm cool with that. So he's absolutely draftable for me.
But the problem is, it's not like he's on suspension or something where he can still practice with the team. He's not getting in those reps right now. And as a rookie, the playbook and getting on the same page with Jared Goff and everything, maybe if he were to fall, I don't think just with his name, I mean, obviously if he wasn't hurt right now, we'd be talking about this in a whole different light. And I'd probably have a different take on Amon-Ra St. Brown right now too. But I just think it's going to be a slow rookie season for him, just with him missing time, missing training camp. And we don't see too many guys. I mean, look at last year. Elijah Moore was somebody that obviously wasn't first, or no, he was first round, but he missed a chunk of training camp, and it took him second round. But even so, I mean, he missed a chunk of training camp, and it took him halfway through the season to even get on the same page with his quarterback and to have relevance there. So I kind of see the same route for Jameson Williams.
Zach Wilson was
he's
also
definitely got upside where if you wanted to take a shot on him later on, I think it would be worth it. But I don't know if you go into it having any expectations. That's
I struggle to compare this with Elijah Moore just because Zach Wilson was also trying to figure out the NFL, and Jared Goff is a veteran at this point. So
yeah.
He's worked with a ton of receivers in the past between, his time with the Rams and his time now in Detroit. So I get your point, but I don't think that's I don't think it's a perfect comparison just because of the quarterback situation. Certainly Goff is much more advanced at this point than Zach Wilson, but I don't know. It's fair. It's also fair to say though, that, and a very good point, I doubt that he ends up truly falling in your draft because of that name recognition, because he was a high first round pick. So somebody's probably going to be willing to draft him earlier than I would. But if he keeps slipping into the future, if he keeps slipping down that, and he's available later than you expected, I'd be fine pulling the trigger on him, but obviously certainly don't reach.
No, nope, not at all. Any other guys from Detroit you want to talk about? I think that's pretty much all fantasy relevance wise. I mean, the only other one that we didn't really touch on is Jared Goff. 2 quarterback leagues. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm even really keeping him on.
Yeah. I don't
as a backup.
I don't want to even talk about Goff. He's irrelevant to me. So, last guy real quick, just DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones. Which guy are you taking first?
I would, man, that is tough because DeAndre Swift is the only guy in that room. Aaron Jones has AJ Dillon there to compete with him. Packers should have more positive game scripts though, where they're going to be running the ball more. So I expect Aaron Jones to be out there, where Lions should be down in quite a few games. So, but yeah, I'd probably go DeAndre Swift just because there's not a ton behind him. Is Jamal Williams still there? He wasn't terribly relevant last year outside of when Swift was hurt, but I'd probably go Swift. I think
just
Swift
had that Lions draft depth chart up. I'm gonna go Swift, and it's a pretty easy decision for me. Jamal Williams is still there, but
yeah, it doesn't concern me as much as AJ Dillon eating into some of Aaron Jones. So I think for that reason, yep. All right, some top targets from Josh. In no particular order. This is just, I guess the order is their ADP. So I guess there is a little bit of an order. Yeah. I've got David Montgomery. Not somebody I'm comfortable with an RB1 role, but somebody I am comfortable with an RB2 role. And he's going in the 306 spot right now. So that's pretty solid. You can get running back ahead of him and plug him into that RB2 spot. Should get solid production for you. He's been very consistent. So somebody you can plug into your lineup. Not going to win you any weeks, but he's definitely not going to lose them for you either. And I expect the Bears to be pretty run heavy as they typically are. TJ Hawkinson is another one that falls on this list. He right now is going in the 709 spot, which I think that is absolutely ridiculous. And if he stays healthy, he's going to be a top 5 tight end. And I like his draft spot there. And then another Lion falls to the 805 spot, and that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think you could get a very good potential out of him. Was top 5 wide receiver down the stretch last year, just absolutely monster numbers. And if Jameson Williams misses some time, I don't see that dropping off at all. Yeah, TJ Hawkinson's going to be there, but you saw some nice rapport with Jared Goff there. So I like Amon-Ra St. Brown in that 8th round that I'd be comfortable putting into a wide receiver 2 spot, especially in PPR.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it off with Justin Jefferson. And obviously, yes, you're going to target him. But I think something that you definitely need to consider if you're starting a dynasty league now, him potentially being that number 1 overall pick. I think you can absolutely make the case that it's between him, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase at that number 1 overall pick spot. So, they're all 3 of them. Those 3 guys are all 22, 23 years old. So you're going to get massive production out of both Chase and Jefferson for probably the next 10, 12 years. Jonathan Taylor, yeah, you're going to get some really sweet production from him over the next 5 to 6. You just might not have the longevity. So that's when you can start talking about Justin Jefferson getting into that conversation for the number 1 overall pick in Dynasty, because he's been able to do this with Kirk Cousins, his production. And let's say the Vikings upgrade at QB. He's going to be even nastier, which is hard to even comprehend, but he's going to be even nastier. I think we're looking at, potentially the best receiver in football over the next decade. So if you've got the number 1 overall pick in Dynasty,
yeah,
he has to be in the conversation.
Absolutely.
Number 2 guy that I'm going to target is DeAndre Swift. We just briefly touched on him there, but I really like him in this Detroit offense. I think that with the additional receivers that they're bringing in, both Jameson Williams and our boy baby Chark coming in, that'll help that Lions offense overall, and that can result in DeAndre Swift getting some additional goal line type of targets. So, potential for some more touchdowns. So I really like Swift here. That's why it was so easy for me to pick Swift over Aaron Jones as a running back. I think that Swift finishes as an RB1 or very high end RB2. But he should finish in that RB1 slot. And then another guy we broke his situation down pretty good earlier is Alan Lazard. He's going to function as that wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. As stated before, Rodgers already has that rapport with him, and he said that, he's excited to see Lazard in that number 1 role. So I think that leaves there a pretty good amount of potential for Lazard.
No, I have no issues with those 3 guys. So definitely some nice fantasy options and guys that you can get in those mid rounds that are in the NFC North that could have some potential value for you this year. So definitely something to keep an eye on in your drafts. Going to transition over to golf now. The Rocket Mortgage Classic in Motown, home of the Detroit Lions and
home of Little Caesars.
Little Caesars, yeah, Little Caesars Arena where the Red Wings play.
The Red Wings, yep.
Pistons are there too, aren't they?
Big time.
Oh yeah. All right. So Rocket Mortgage Classic played at the Detroit Golf Club, par 72, 7,370 yards. So
Pound Town
for sure. And it's got some nice holes that you can finish on. Last year, Cam Davis won in a playoff. I believe he went eagle birdie to get into the playoff last year. So nice run from him there. again, like the 3M, not the strongest of fields, a little bit more big names.
It's better than
the 3M.
Yeah.
Guys are getting kind of into the playoff mode. Next week is I can't remember which tournament it is next week, but it's the last one before the playoffs start for golf. So everybody's trying to fine tune their golf game, and what better way than to do that in Motown? Some guys that are going to be out there swinging away. Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, Will Zalatoris, Sahith Theegala, Tony Finau, Max Homa, Kevin Kisner, Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler is one of those guys on the cut line to make the playoffs, so trying to get the playoff push, get into the FedEx Cup playoff fields. Any favorites here for those that want to dabble in the coin game, Joe?
In the arena, the gambling arena. Patrick Cantlay, he is your favorite right now at plus 900. Tony Finau falls into as the number 2 guy, a number 2 favorite here at plus 1,200, along with Will Zalatoris also at plus 1,200. Right behind those guys, Cameron Young at plus 1,400 and Max Homa at plus 1,800. So, I don't know. We haven't seen Finau this high up on the list in a while, so it's good to, obviously he's coming off that W at the 3M. But I think Cantlay
too.
What's that?
He's been playing good golf lately too. So no quarrels there with him being number 2.
So absolutely think Patrick Cantlay deserves to be the number 1 overall favorite here. I am going to throw one long shot at you, and that's Cameron Davis. Go to see if he can go back to back. He's made his last 6 cuts and had 4 top 16 finishes. So obviously he's played well in this tournament on this course. So you got to like that. And he's gained strokes over the field in 9 of his last 10 events with his irons. So given how long this, what'd you say was 7,300 or so yards?
Yeah.
So given how long this course is, iron play is going to be huge. Put out a nice ball on a drive and then irons come into play. It's similar to, this is a course where I think Hovland would fit Hovland's game very well as Javi bombs because he is a great iron player, and there's not such a focus on your short game, which has always been Javi's weakness. But so you should be seeing some, just a lot of long balls this week. And I think that fits Cameron Davis's game and just with how strong his irons have been.
Oh, good insight there. All right, so let's get into our picks where yours truly is getting their ass kicked. If you're new to the show, what we've been doing since the Century Tournament of Champions, Jill and I have been picking a golfer, whatever their score is relative to par. That's what you get for the week. Cut does not matter outside of it being a tiebreaker at the end. If for some reason I make a huge comeback and we are tied, then that will come into play. Yeah, being the greatest comeback in all of sports history for sure. But once you use a golfer, can't use them again, can't use the same golfer as your opponent for the week. There's quite a few guys that I liked this week, some big names out there. I mean, you got Tony Finau. Can he go back to back? He's been playing some solid golf, but went with a little gamesmanship this week, Joe, and I took a long look at your list of guys that you have picked. So I wanted to pick somebody you hadn't picked that has been playing some pretty good golf lately. Is up for possible rookie of the year coming off a T2 at the Open Championship. I'm going Mr. Cameron Young.
God damn it. That was my guy.
Yes, sir. So, like I said, went with a little gamesmanship, looked through the guys that you had picked, and thought you hadn't picked him yet. So I was like, you know what?
Bitch.
If I can't win, I'm gonna pick your guy and piss you off. And
you fucking
what do you know?
suck.
I sure did. But no, I really like Cameron Young this week. This is a tournament I think that he could end up getting his first PGA Tour win on, and he's been playing phenomenal this year. Just absolutely coming out hot his rookie debut on the tour. And I think I bought enough time here, Joe, for you to try and find your replacement.
Don't like that. Yeah, I mean, I loved him, obviously, coming off that Open Championship performance. I touched on when I recapped in the Just Jellin episode about just how impressive he was off the tee. And, this entire back 9 is pretty much wide open holes. And with how long this course is, it favors huge drivers. And and Cameron Young has been, he's just been money off the tee. So he's definitely my favorite guy this year. He is number one. He is number one off the tee over his past 24 rounds is Cameron Young.
Pretty
So,
solid.
oh, mother frickin' screw you. All right. Well, I need to pivot here, and I'm gonna go long shot here. I'm gonna go with my long shot. I'm gonna go Cameron. I'm gonna go Cameron Davis. Go get a little back-to-back action going with him. Obviously, he knows this course well, and I like his iron play, so I'll go with that. I'll go with the third Cameron on tour, and the second Cameron from Australia.
Yeah,
between him and Cam Young. So I'll go Cameron Davis and suck it up and we'll go. It'll be the Cameron show for us this week.
Nice. And back-to-back weeks, you picked somebody with Davis in their name too. So worked out well for you last week. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, that was a miscut last week. So let's see how he does.
Yes. All right. That will do it for this week. Appreciate everybody out there listening. Again, make sure you subscribe on our socials at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook's at Dead Arm Sports. Again, make sure you subscribe, click the bell on YouTube so that way you know when our episodes drop. Thanks, Joe. And you can ask us any questions. You got that chat rolling, so you can fire away, ask us anything you want to. It can be about topics we're discussing on the show, something you want us to dive into more. If you saw something in the news or anything fantasy related, love fantasy questions as well. Obviously going to be transitioning over towards that once the season gets rolling here. Joe can be found at DosGel. I can be found at DosJPEG. Send us questions in there. Otherwise, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Write us a review, screenshot that, get you some swag sent out in the mail. Joe, where else can they find us at?
Hit us up at our presenting sponsor, Anchor, available on the web and via your app store, whether that's Google Play for you Android users or the Apple App Store for all you iPhoners. You can just search Anchor, find the app there. Also available on the web. Just type in anchor.fm. That'll take you exactly over to the site. We can be, it allows us to do all of our editing for free on, with my dog's behind me.
I know. Sonny can see his tail.
See his tail. All you YouTubers, you will see my dog's tail and the roar and fire. So make sure to hit up that YouTube channel. Just search Dead Arms Sports, hit subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications as to when we go live, when new content comes out.
Again, appreciate everybody out there listening. We'll be back with you next week. Gonna say we saved the West for last, Joe, and yes, that could be intermixed with the best too. So got a ton of fantasy options to talk about in both of those divisions. So I'm excited to break those down. AFC West will be up first and finish with the NFC West, and that'll be it for our fantasy divisional previews. But looking forward to that. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and Joe closes us out.
Happy Thirsty Thursday.